Good morning, everyone. My name is Scott Morris. I am the Director of Business Development for Gaming for GTS Distribution, and we're here with another one of our B2B webinars, our publisher retailer webinars. Very excited. We're going to talk about two very big, very tiny games today, which are really cool. We have Gamelyn Games with us, and we're going to be talking about both Tiny Epic Galaxies and Tiny Epic Mechs. Now, I mentioned this earlier, Nathan, and you can kind of confirm or deny this, but at least for GTS's side, Tiny Epic Galaxies is the best selling of all of the Tiny Epic series. I have a gut feeling that that's probably the same kind of broad looking and everything. So that's one of the reasons that we wanted to look at this one. And then Tiny Epic Mechs is going to be coming out quite soon, very, very soon. I mentioned it a little bit earlier before we started recording, but so that everyone knows, everything except for one title is in stock, both with us and with Gamelyn.
Yes.
Nathan, I don't remember, which is the title that's out of stock right now?
The title that we're currently out of stock with is actually the first Tiny Epic we launched, which is Tiny Epic Kingdoms. But the entire rest of the line is in stock really for the first time ever. So
great. That's awesome. So yeah, so if while retailers are ordering, if you run into issues where your warehouse, is out of stock for whatever reason, just let your sales rep know. We can get them restocked really quickly and really easily for everything. Just so you know, also, normally when we do our webinars, we offer retailers 52% off MSRP for the games that we're talking about between this Monday and next Monday. What Nathan has actually done is, since everything is in stock, we're actually really happy to say that all of the Tiny games are actually going to be 52% off. So while we're going to talk about Galaxies and Mechs today, if there are other games like Western or Defenders or anything like that that you guys are interested in bringing in the stores, as long as you order in between now and next Monday, you'll be able to get 52% off them as well, which is great. So we definitely want to thank Nathan for allowing us to do that from a financial perspective, which is great. So
my pleasure.
With that, I'm going to be quiet. I will let Nathan take over and get started on things because we're a couple minutes late this morning, but really appreciate everyone's time. Really appreciate everyone joining. And Nathan, thank you very much for coming with all the information. Sure, the floor is all yours.
Absolutely. Yeah, so the first thing that I just kind of have it set up here in front of me, but I really want to talk about Tiny Epic Mechs. This is going to be the newest and the latest and greatest introduction to the Tiny Epic series. It will be going to retail right after Gen Con on August 5th. And really the biggest thing and the most impactful of this game that I really want to show off are the item meeples. You may be familiar with item meeples from other Tiny Epic games, Tiny Epic Quest, Tiny Epic Defenders. We've really tried to take these components and really raise the bar as far as what you're able to do in Tiny Epic Mechs. And so everybody just kind of starts out as their own pilot. You're going to start out on this grid. You're going to be moving across this grid, bumping into each other, fighting. The year is 3030. Mech battles are the sport of the future. So it is an area control combat game, but the combat is very light. And, you get exploded, you start back at your spawn point, you get back in there and get in the fight, just kind of, like an arena game. But you start out as your pilot, and you're going to get these basic weapons, and you're just going to see there's a whole slew of weapons that you're going to be able to select from inside of this. But if you take this, and this is honestly the funnest part of the whole game, is you start out as your basic pilot. But then throughout the course of the game, you're going to be gathering more resources, energies, credits, things that you get in the future. There's just a ton of bits and stuff to come in there. But you're actually going to be able to take your power armor here, and you actually can insert your meeple into the power armor. And once your meeple now is inside the power armor, guess what? You get to upgrade into more advanced style weapons, rail guns, gauze weapons, cannons. And then when you get powered up, now you're going to be able to fight your enemies a little bit better. And there's kind of a rock, paper, scissors element going on to this. And so based on what weapons you're purchasing and equipping, your opponent's also going to be paying attention to what you're equipping and putting on there so that they aren't buying and equipping weapons that are weak to your weapons. And so, if you're only holding melee weapons, if your opponent has a bunch of ranged weapons, he's going to light you up pretty heavily. And everybody kind of gets their own little power armor. So you see all the different player colors, 4 different player colors. You get 4 different of the power armors here. But then in the middle of the board is the Mighty Mech. So there's only one mech. And this is kind of a King of the Hill action. So he'll start in the middle of the board. And the way that you kind of move around the board is it's action programming. So we love action programming. So you're going to be, in secret programming your program in, and then in turn order, you're just going to reveal it and kind of let the mayhem ensue. But then everybody's going for this Mighty Mech in the middle. A little bit of a King of the Hill. First come, first serve gets to get inside the Mighty Mech. And you'll see once he's in there, he's really cool. And again, you're going to be powering it up with all kinds of weapons. Now, once you get in that Mighty Mech, you're going to have a little bit of target on your head, and everybody is going to be coming after you, because if you destroy the Meeple and Mighty Mech, you then get to jump in and you see he's all powered up there. And what's really cool about purchasing the weapons is weapons are worth victory points at the end of the game, but then also you don't have to immediately equip them, right? When you buy them, you can hold them and wait till you get in the mech. And there are tons of playable characters. All the characters here, they got, you know, their normal size with their normal ability. Then you flip them over when you get into that power armor. You get more abilities, more weapons to hold, more hit points. There's a lot of variety of characters. It's all about victory points. 6 rounds, most victory points at the end of the game wins. Some rounds are scoring rounds and some rounds are not. So whenever you're playing, if you deal damage, you get victory points. So dealing damage, regardless if you're winning combats or not, dealing damage is worth a lot of victory points. But then there's going to be an area control element where you're placing mines and turrets across the board, you know, trying to anticipate where your opponents are going to be landing and going, you know, and kind of exploding them. And then every other round, you get points for doing that. But like all Tiny Epic games, everything does go back neatly in this nice little box. You know, it plays in under an hour, up to 4 players. It offers a very, very competitive solo mode, just like all the other Tiny Epic games do.
Hey, Nathan, there's a question from Kevin. Are the cards big size or normal size to the normal, typical Epic dimensions?
Yes, and so the player characters that you see here, and then you'll kind of have also a little sideboard. Those are the standard Tiny Epic sizes, you know, that you get in, like, you know, the 88 by 125s, but then the 70 squares. So you'll have a grid board set up, and then all the weapon cards are 70 by 70, and then all of the programming cards are 70 by 70. But the player characters and your kind of helper board where you track your resources are that standard Tiny Epic size.
Awesome. I made a comment online and I said, Meeple exosuits for the win. And Roland replied and says, yes, throws money at screens. So those are used very well. Those are very cool.
Yeah, and again, I mean, they're heavily engineered. I mean, I am, you know, I'm not a little guy. I'm heavily bending this. You know, these are not flimsy. You know, they're very tactile. You know, because with the item meeples, you know, we did our homework, and, you know, we use hex holes with round pegs. It gives you a lot of articulation. So as you're kind of moving this, you see it doesn't like just fall. You can decide and articulate and, you know, really kind of make him look exactly how you want him, and then he'll always stay that way. But, you know, and then you can actually see this. There's just tons of different weapons that you get inside this game.
That's awesome. That's excellent. So I know, you know, this is one of the things I was talking about earlier before, is that the Tiny Epic series as a whole, there's kind of something for everybody, right? It doesn't matter if you are a fantasy fan, if you're a space fan, if you're a Western fan, if you're a mech fan, any of that stuff. But it's not, to me, and I'm sure if anyone, the retailers have played them, they know this. This is not a case of just taking a game and reskinning it. It's not even close to that.
No,
They're
not at all.
different from each other. And really, apart from the name and the box size, each one is a completely different experience. It's a completely different, you know, run through and gameplay and mechanics and all of that stuff. And you know, there's a lot of people that I've introduced the games to, and they're like, oh, I've played this one, so I'm sure I know how to do this. And it's like, no, not really. Here's why. And, you know, it's a very, very different thing. And I think that's one of the things that has made this line so successful for you guys overall, is that while it is a brand, so to speak, in terms of the Tiny line, each one is its own unique experience, its own unique gameplay. And it's something that if you're a retailer and you're selling to consumers, it's very easy to tell them to start with, well, what do you like, right? If you like space, let's look at Galaxies. If you like mechs, let's look at mechs, things like that. But then you can also expand on, hey, there's other games that aren't just reskins, and it's not just like a rehash of the original rules and changing it to this. It's a completely new experience, which from my standpoint, I've been talking about this a lot on our webinars, is focusing on brands first and games second. You focus on the brands that do very well, that have a good long-standing pedigree, and the games will come from them that are good. And Tiny is one of those lines for sure, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, very well said, Scott, actually. You know, and that's honestly, you know, like you said, outside the name Tiny Epic and this box that it comes in, they are all completely different experiences, but we try to like maintain, you know, a certain level. You know, we have these 6 different things that all make up a Tiny Epic game. So all Tiny Epics are going to be easy entry. They're going to have a lot of strategy, very little downtime, short play times, everything plays in under an hour, highly replayable because everything, no space is wasted in a Tiny Epic game. Everything is double-sided in Tiny Epic games. I mean, there's no space wasted inside these boxes, and they leave a very small footprint. You know, you don't have to have large gaming tables. You know, they're small, so when you stick them in your bag, you travel. You know, you're a student, whatever. You know, and they're great. You know, great games for adults to play with children. You know, and they're great games for couples to play together as well because of the easy entry of them, but then how much strategy and meat is really on the bones. And just exactly like you said, you know, particularly for a retailer, you come in, okay, well, what do you like the most? Start there. And then, you know, once you find out, wow, this Tiny Epic games are awesome, now you can just start exploring the entire line and really get every mechanic, every genre, you know, kind of under one roof.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So there doesn't seem to be any additional questions about mechs. So if you do want to jump into Galaxies and talk a little bit about Galaxies, we could do that as well.
Absolutely. So just, as you see my box here, Tiny Epic Galaxies.
I forgot to say this earlier, but just as a reminder, if any of the retailers have any questions, it's really easy to ask a question. All you have to do is hover over your video window, and there's a little chat bubble at the bottom. You can open that up, and you can send a message either to all the panelists, which are Nathan and myself, or you can send a message to all panelists and attendees. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to raise your hand. As I tell everybody, everything's on the table, so let us know.
Yeah, nothing. Yep, all questions are on. So
yeah.
Yep, and then so I'm just going to transition right into Tiny Epic Galaxies. Again, in stock, you know, this one, you know, oftentimes is very sought after, and so the stock sells very quickly through Tiny Epic Galaxies. But it is Gamelyn Games' #1 bestseller. It was featured on Tabletop with Will Wheaton, Mayim Bialik from Big Bang Theory, Andy Weir, the director of The Martian. And so, you know, there's a lot of good coverage out there. And just like in all Tiny Epic games, tons and tons of components in this box. What really, really sets Tiny Epic Galaxies apart, I think, is one, it is a 5-player game. So some Tiny Epics play 5, but most do play a 1 to 4. But Tiny Epic Galaxies plays up to 5 players, and so that kind of gives it a little bit of a unique standpoint. And everybody gets their own home galaxy here. You know, not a lot of information, you know, to have to deduce. It's kind of very simple. The iconography, you know, really matches what you're doing in the game. But also, you know, and I talk about solo mode. But solo mode, actually, Board Game Geek 2015 Game of the Year for solo. Again, no wasted space. On the back of all these cards, you get a solo rogue AI galaxy to play against, which, again, can make it very easy for people to learn games and then experience them and share them with each other. The core mechanic of the game, we all love dice, custom dice. We love custom dice. And so the icons of this are going to indicate in what you can do. And as you're rolling and locking in these dice, you're flying your ships around to other planets. You're colonizing and taking over these planets. Every planet is completely unique from each other. They have unique art, unique abilities. They all have a victory point amount to them. So as you're rolling the dice, moving, taking over these planets, gaining the victory points, what you're actually doing too is you're going from kind of having everybody is essentially a symmetrical galaxy or symmetrical faction. As you start drafting and taking over those planets, you're then going to be able to get new custom abilities. So for example, this planet right here is a single victory point planet, but it also has an ability. And so once this planet is taken out of orbit because you've rolled the appropriate dice that allow you to move, you've rolled the appropriate dice that matches, you know, the iconography of the planet. So you'll see this is a diplomatic die. This is a diplomatic planet. If you move to this planet, you'll lock these in to take it over. Based on how long the tracker here is, how many you're going to have to roll. But then once you actually take over this planet, it moves out of orbit. A new planet goes right into place of it, and it slides and slips in under your galaxy mat. So now you have access to that ability that you can use over and over and over. So a big strategy of the game, what people really like to do is finding planets that combo well together. They're like, oh, if I had this planet and this planet, then I could do these things on my turn. You know, and just taking over planets is all you're doing. And so, you know, the strategy kind of unveils itself as you go. But then as you really start to pick it up, you fully start to understand all of these different planets that you can, you know, essentially combo together. And again, there's 40 unique planets in this game, all unique arts, all unique abilities, and they're just so cool. But super quick gameplay. And what is really awesome about Tiny Epic Galaxies is we've done a follow mechanic. I think people really like follow mechanics because it always forces you to pay attention to exactly what's going on. You don't take your turn, walk away, grab a sandwich, you're going to miss out on the whole game. You have to be paying attention, because as people are locking in dice to take their actions and take their turns, you're going to be able to spend the two resources in the game, culture and energy. Culture is going to allow you to follow these other players. So essentially, as long as you have the culture resource in Tiny Epic Galaxy, it's always your turn. And the resources are going to come from the planets that you're visiting. There's a lot of mitigation for the dice in this game too. So it's not roll the dice and you're just kind of stuck with it. You always get a free reroll, but then the energy that you have is going to allow you to burn that energy and continue to reroll. So you always, if you have energy, you're going to have a lot of dice mitigation. And then there is a converter in this game. And so you can always use the converter to cash in some dice that you don't need to make sure you get exactly what you want. But gameplay is very, very quick. It's very rapid. It's the easiest Tiny Epic to learn. Less than 5 minutes you can be playing. And so those kind of things really set it apart. And again, just tons of custom wood, tons of custom bits, high quality, everything is high quality.
Greg just asked a question real quick, just so to make sure everyone knows. He asked, is the 52% off everything except Kingdoms? And if so, I'm going to place an order this week, which is great. So thank you very much. But yes, the 52% off is off everything that we have in stock for the Tiny Epic line. So Kingdoms is the only one that's not in stock with us and not in stock with Gamelyn Games. But like I said at the beginning, other than that, everything else is in stock with us and in stock with Gamelyn Games. Again, just kind of to make sure everybody knows, if you look at GTS's kind of makeup of the United States, if you were to draw a line from the Pacific Northwest to Florida, just directly across the United States, that's where our main 3 hub warehouses are. We have a warehouse in Linwood, Washington. We have a warehouse in St. Louis, Missouri, and then we have a warehouse in Jacksonville, Florida. A vast majority of the board game sales come from those 3. But then we have satellite offices as well. We have kind of a hub and a spoke model. The spoke models are in New York, Michigan, Arizona, Southern California, Northern California, and Hawaii, which for some reason my owners won't let me go inspect, which is kind of frustrating, but that's another story. So
we'll go together. We'll go together, Scott.
We should. I'm like, this needs to be like an on-site visit. We need to inspect, right? Yeah. So, but yeah, if your local warehouse doesn't have any stock, we will easily be able to get stock there from the hub warehouses. Or you obviously can order from the hub warehouses as well. But if we don't, if we run out of stock by any demand, as Nathan said earlier, he's got stock of everything, so we're able to get them very quickly from Nathan. He's always been like a good 2-day or less ship, which has been awesome. So,
we've kind of split our stock now between kind of a more centralized warehouse and an eastern warehouse as well. So Gamelyn Games has expanded its warehouse capabilities just to be able to get games quick to people and kind of cover that area. So.
Frank asked a really good question. So Tiny Epic Kingdom 2nd edition is actually still in stock with GTS. So yes, anything that is in stock with us will be eligible for the 52% off. If we run out of stock of that, we're not going to be able to get that one back from Gamelyn Games until they get it reprinted. But other than that, yes, everything that is in stock at GTS will be able to get you 52% off, which is awesome.
Yep. Go down that line, and everything that says Tiny Epic, you're going to get that deal. And again, people they come in twos, because the game's $25, for the MSRP, and so 2 Tiny Epic games is $50, and which a lot of people are used to paying for, and so it's a lot of people will buy a few because there's so much difference and variability to them. It's like, well, nobody likes just space. It's like, well, I like space and mechs, or I like fantasy, and quest, and quest actually just came back in stock very recently, and that one again is very sought after. The first game to introduce item meeples. So
yeah. Derek has a question. Jessica, I may need your help answering this one. Derek asks, since you mentioned multiple warehouse orders, how do those work exactly as far as minimums for free shipping? So I don't know, Jessica, if you're still on, if you can help answer that one.
Yeah, so our free shipping minimums are actually posted on our website. I'm going to pull that link so we don't take too much time talking here about it, but I will post the link of the free shipping, how that works with multiple warehouses. You should get all the information that you need.
Awesome. Excellent. Thank you. Cool. And Derek says thank you.
And then, Scott, I want to show off just one more thing. 2 seconds.
Yeah, by all means. Oh, he's got to get up for this one. This is going to be interesting. So, while Nathan is doing that, I will let everybody know. So one of the things that's always impressed me about the Tiny Epic games is that these are games, and you can see it tremendously as Nathan was explaining the Mechs game here. These are games that could very easily be overproduced. They're games that, you know, in the hand, I hate to say it like this, but in the hands of the wrong publisher, they could easily have overproduced them. They could have added a lot of bloat, a lot of things that, you know, worked from an aesthetic perspective, but may not have necessarily been needed. And the Tiny Epic games have always struck me as something that, if you're a minimalist and you like efficiency and use of things as best as possible, like Nathan was saying, you know, there's no wasted space, double-sided cards, double-sided everything. That's something that's really appealing to me, just from a consumer standpoint, apart from the pressure standpoint, that when you open these boxes, you don't feel as though you are getting a lesser experience than like a $50 or $60 strategy game you would buy. You get just as much, if not more, in some cases. I've probably played Galaxies. I've probably played Galaxies close to 15 or 16 times. It's been a lot. And it's never felt the same twice, which is really cool. And that's a big testament to Scott Alms, the designer, and kind of what he does with Gamelyn Games to make sure that each game is unique and each game is cool. Kevin said, after you sleeve Tiny Epic Mechs, is it a tight fit? That's a good question.
Yes, because of the amount of inside the box, once the game is fully sleeved, it is a tight fit, but everything goes back in the box sleeved up. So. Okay,
excellent, cool. Okay, what is this new big surprise?
Yes.
Oh, and Jessica,
so this is something again to kind of continue promoting. And just one more point, kind of like what you said. You know, a Tiny Epic game, you know, because of the amount of game you're getting, you know, where we kind of make less is more. You know, it really could be a $50 game with an insert and a larger box. You know, but we want to be economical and we want it to be ecological. You know, for you to be able to travel, for you to save space on yourself, you know, that's something really important to Gamelyn Games. So
those are all good things in this day and age.
Yes. So, you know, because there are so many Tiny Epic games now and people just love having them everywhere they go, we have produced the Tiny Epic Game Haul bag. So we actually partnered with Game Haul and we've actually created this Tiny Epic Game Haul, and it holds 12 Tiny Epic games.
Wow.
So it goes right in. And the games stack right inside, and you know,
nice.
12. It's got a nice clear front on it, you know, so that you can be proud of your collection. Now, when you go to game night, you don't need to take any other game. You just fill your Tiny Epic Game Haul full of every Tiny Epic, and it's like, well, what kind of game do you want to play? And then you're ready to go. You know, and it's really, you know, I wish you could feel it, but I mean, it's made with Game Haul, and so I mean, it's super high quality. Yeah. The zippers are all nice. It's got little feet on the bottom of it.
Nice.
Water bottle holder, another little zipper pack on this side. But
obviously, the big question on this one is going to be, is that going to be available through distribution, or is that going to be available directly from you guys?
Nope, this is going to be available through distribution, and we are ready to ship this out very soon. So
great, yeah, that's all good news. That's brand new. So
30 days. Yeah,
oh, great, even better.
This is, you know, one of the first times anybody will have ever seen it.
Yeah, no, I didn't even know anything about that. I know we don't have it set up in our system or anything yet, so that's great to hear that it's going to be able to come through us pretty quickly, which is awesome. That's actually a really
It's kind of
way to like show.
And so as people are doing these orders. Oh, sorry,
that's awesome. That's awesome. No, that's really cool. That's very nice. It's a good way to display the games too. If you're just, you know, instead of having to take them out of the bag, you can just leave them in the bag and put them on. I'm going to ask you a really funny question because it kind of looks like it does. Does that fit inside of a Calyx?
Yeah, of course. It fits beautifully inside a Calyx.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yep. So now your Tiny Epics all just, you know, they're displayed nicely. You now just grab it, take it, and so it's super cool. And you know, and again, it'll help retailers, you know, again, incentivize, you know, because, you know, gamers, we're all very collective by nature, and you can't just have this be empty. You gotta fill it up. And so
that's right.
really will incentivize.
Like Lay's potato chips, you can't have just one.
That's right.
That's awesome. That's exciting. So we'll be on the lookout for that then. As soon as you can get us information on that, we'll get it set up and we'll send that out to retailers so they can do pre-orders on stuff for that, because that would be great. So that's awesome.
Please.
Cool. Well, there's no additional questions that have come in, so it sounds like we've probably covered a lot of the things. Just in case anyone does have any additional questions, Nathan, what's the best way for someone to get a hold of you if they wanted to ask any additional questions about Gamelyn?
The best way, you know, my cell phone's always in my hand. I'm always in my email. It's very simple. Nathan@GamelynGames.com.
All right, I'm going to put that into chat there so everyone's got it. And of course, if anyone wants to reach out to me, feel free to reach out to me at GTS. I'm just smorris@gtsdistribution.com. Happy to help out with that one as well. Jared asked a quick question. Sorry if it has been asked, but does the discount apply to land, sea, and air? No, at the current moment, it's only for the Tiny Epic games. So the land, sea, and air, we actually did another webinar, which I'll make sure we link to when we post this one online. But I think maybe about a month and a half or 2 months ago, Nathan had come on and we had a talk about land, sea, and air and Pestilence, the expansion, and all the amazingly awesome big flying airships and things like that. So,
Yeah.
So this sale, Jared, is only for the Tiny Epic games, but I'll be happy to grab that and make sure we put the link for that video into this video as well so that everyone can see it and reference back to it. So good stuff. Awesome. Well, with that, retailers, thank you so much for joining. Again, apologize about the late start today, but really do appreciate everybody taking some time and hanging out with us and getting all this awesome information. Again, if you do want to place any orders for any of the Tiny Epic games, everything that's in stock with GTS, you'll get 52% off between this Monday and next Monday, which I believe, if I do my math right, is the 22nd. And Nathan, thank you. Appreciate it. I know it was kind of technologically crazy this morning, but
No, I tried to make things too fancy.
You can never be too fancy with that hair, man. You look too good.
It is nice today. It is nice.
Awesome. All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful week in your stores. And until we see you next time, have a great time.